In our last devlog we made the player, also known as Bean, and some fun networking, which totally isn't a form of torture and no sane person will ever do it. Now, this game is meant to be about driving a tank, but we still don't have any tanks in here, so let's make one. Just before we start, I wanted to thank everyone for supporting me and my videos. I wasn't expecting that many views on the first devlog, and you guys gave me the motivation to keep going. Now, back to the video. Godot makes making vehicles trivial because of the vehicle body 3D and vehicle wheel 3D nodes, which in combination with only a few lines of code give a simple way to drive a vehicle. Now, it may not be perfect, but it's a great start. This is where our first problem arises. When the vehicle falls over, it will falls over, but we want to make it so that it always rotates back to staying upwards. To look for inspirations on how to do it, I downloaded a Godot demo project called Tracktown. And guess what? Here, the vehicles always stay upwards. I searched through every piece of code in that project, but found 0 lines that were responsible for it. Then I looked into the vehicle body 3D and wheel settings to see if there was anything about it, but there wasn't, and I had everything exactly the same. Then it hit me. Since my tank is way bigger than that car is, it also has its center of mass higher. After manually lowering the center of mass, it now works fine. As you may have noticed, this vehicle doesn't exactly look like an IFV, so I looked up some photos and size of a Russian BMP and modeled my vehicle to match it at least a little bit for now. One thing I noticed is that when the player exits the tank, it still drives forward and very slowly stops. I want to change that so when a driver leaves it, it stops almost instantly. Luckily, it was a quick fix. Now we have our Bevupa working, so let's wire it into the main game. And there is a bug. Of course there will be one. We can't enter the vehicle. To fix it, we just need to change the script from comparing the local position of a player to his global position. Let's check that. And I think this wasn't intended. Fortunately, it's just another case where I have used a local position instead of a global one. Silly me. The next logical step is to check if everything works fine in multiplayer. And who could have expected that something went wrong? The host can enter the tank with no problems, but the client can't. It didn't take long for it to be fixed, luckily. Side note, I am recording this voiceover over 2 weeks after encountering this issue, so I honestly don't remember what was the cause of this bug. There is still one huge difference between my Bevupa and basically any tank created ever. It's the fact that my vehicle doesn't have a turret. To begin with, I use the best programming tool, which is Ctrl-A, Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V, to reuse the driver's code for entering the seat. After that, some interpolation of the rotation, and it's done. Oh boy, can't wait to shoot some Xenos to death. Who the hell designed this vehicle? This needs fixing immediately, and I totally did not waste a day trying to come up with a solution when all I had to do was use a rotate towards function instead of lerp f. If we have a turret, we most likely have a cannon, and if we have a cannon, it must shoot something, but we currently don't have any bullets, so time to change that. I haven't spent much time modeling the bullet, but where I spent more time was with Godot's GPU particles node, a great node for adding particles to your game. After messing with some physics settings, bullets now work as intended. Currently, the turret can rotate left and right, but it can't rotate up and down. Hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just make it look different so that it doesn't look like you just copied it. Sure thing. Now the cannon can rotate up and down. You may also have noticed that I added a white circle to indicate where the cannon is pointing at, but it glitches every time we shoot. To solve this, I just made the raycast that controlled the circle ignore collisions with bullets. Let's see if it works in multiplayer. And surprisingly, there weren't any major issues here. Next up is a cupola for the commander. I'm going to cheat a little bit by copying everything from the turret, changing a few parameters and calling it a day. Later down the line, the commander will have an option to change his armament from this coaxial machine gun to something else, for example, ATGMs. As you can see, there is a big issue that I haven't touched on before. Our player can enter multiple seats at once, which, unless you are an American, isn't supposed to happen. Until now, every seat was listening for inputs from our player to know when he wanted to embark or disembark his seat, but that led to a situation where multiple seats were close enough to the player that they all embarked him. One way to solve this will be to create a seat manager that will find the closest seat to the player and embark him into only that one seat on command. Time to see if it works. We have entered successfully. It all seems to be working. But of course it won't work on the first try. Why would it work on the first try? Some not so minor tweaks later, it works. At least that's what I would say if I wasn't insane. This stupid seat manager is the sole reason why this video got delayed by a week. A week! With this state of the seat manager, multiple players can enter the same seat. Fix seems simple, just one if statement. Wrong. After that, sometimes when a player presses the button to embark it, it will embark and disembark him at once. That was because of lag, and after adding some countermeasures, the game would crash when a client tried to enter a seat, but only the client. On host, it was working fine. It was even giving me an error to a line in a different script where there was no code. Like, hello, how can I know what's wrong when you point me to nothing? It was a struggle to fix it, but in the end I managed to make it work. If you're wondering what was the cause for all of that, it was the fact that the client was calling the method to embark a seat over the network with an argument of the player node. For some reason, Godot doesn't like when references to nodes are sent over a network. So what I had to do was replace the argument of a node to a node path and then in the method write getNode function on the node path provided. All in all, in this video we created an IFV, seats inside it that all have different functionality and suffered with networking. I'll count it as a success. I just hope I won't have to do anything networking related for some time. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to this channel and leaving a like down below. If you're new to this channel, be sure to watch the first devlog video. Next video will arrive around 2 to 3 weeks from now. That's all I got for today. Potez out.